Hello everybody, and welcome back to another episode on Sense and Sensibility. You guys are in for a fun one. It's gonna be great. We are joined once again by my cousin Allison. It's a really fun episode. Jane Austen episodes are always fun episodes, but this one especially, and this entire book is really fun because it's kind of underappreciated, which kind of makes it fun to deep dive into because I didn't have any sort of premise about this book at all. I didn't know any of the characters before we started, which Pride and Prejudice I didn't know that much, but like I knew Darcy existed. So this fully blind, and I think that kind of makes it fun. So I hope you guys enjoy these episodes. If you haven't listened to the first two, please go back and do that just so you don't get any spoilers and you kind of know where we're at when we start. And I think it's more enjoyable that way. But yeah, without further ado, let's get into the episode. Hello everyone, and we are back with another episode on Sense and Sensibility, and I am once again joined by Allison.
Hello.
I like that you looked into the camera, but this is an audio medium, so no one's gonna get that.
Everyone knows I looked into the camera when I said that.
It's true. It's like The Office, with my...
Yeah, just off into the distance.
I saw another thing that was like, oh, what's that one thing that everyone's watched that you haven't watched? And I was like, me with The Office over and over and over again.
You have to do it once.
I know. At some point I will.
I feel like a lot of things are like that. You gotta do it one time. Lord of the Rings, you have to watch one time, at least.
Yeah, at least Harry Potter one time.
Yep.
Star
and
Wars
read
at
the
least
books.
one time.
Mm-hmm.
True.
It's an obligation to our pop culture.
2005 Pride and Prejudice hand flex at least one time.
Yeah. And Sense and Sensibility. I like that movie.
I know. I mean, I haven't watched it yet, so like after that, I could say at least one time.
I mean, I think that the Pride and Prejudice 2005 version that you're talking about is much more theatrical and very Hollywood, but
yeah,
this one really captures the story.
So. Good. I'm glad because like I felt like with 2005 it was I wanted more, so hopefully this will like scratch that itch for me.
Yeah.
So anyways, we are starting with chapter 18. Eleanor is very uneasy with how upset Edward seems to be right now. Like he showed up, he's just like all moody and everyone's like, what is going on? Which we will find out later.
Yeah, I said he's being a little sus in my notes to nod to Gen Z a little bit.
Oh my gosh, I've been watching so much Among Us playthroughs and every time someone says sus, I'm like, pink is sus. Like, I can't help it. It's so bad. So then Edward goes for a walk the next morning instead of being left alone with Eleanor. And I was like, buddy, that's a little rude. Everyone's love life in this is not great. It's not going well.
Well, a lot of things go unspoken. So, I mean, as we find out, he's got a lot of stuff going on personally. We find out more about, Marianne. Everyone's just secretly battling these things because they can't just talk about it.
Literally. It's what? The 19th century, no one can talk about anything. 19? Yeah.
I mean,
still no one talks about anything.
I think, book is 1811. So I just always assume 1811, but it would be good to know if it's actually supposed to be present.
Yeah, I have no idea what the actual time frame is. So Edward says the country is beautiful, but that Mary Ann shouldn't ask him to describe what he thought because he would offend her with his ignorance and want of taste.
I thought that part was pretty funny.
I did too. I love the like subtle drag on Mary. Like drag is that?
I mean, they're kind of like siblings already. Yeah. He teases her a lot. I mean, I think in the last section he was teasing her and this tree I could never say was beautiful enough, or
literally, because Mary Ann's just so dramatic. But like everyone lets her down because she wants everyone to be equally as dramatic as she is.
Just a hopeless romantic.
I love that for her.
It's necessary for this story too.
Yeah, it adds a little bit of like flavor.
A
And then
little
I
bit
just
of
said,
spice.
yeah. And then I just said, poor Edward, this dude is doing his best.
Yeah. I liked how he's talking to her and, Marianne romanticizes everything and he's over here telling her, I like when trees are straight and perfect.
Oh, I know. That was my next note. I was like, I just kind of think it's funny because he says he likes everything to be nice, neat, and new. And I just, there are people like that who don't really love the country. And I think he likes things to be uniform. And like, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. But I think Marianne was just like shaken by this.
Yeah. Well, and he also, I think, you can take it beyond just what he means by the scenery. I think he likes people that are cut and dry and
Mm-hmm.
sensible and smart and well
Yeah.
spoken.
Which is
Whereas
why he likes
Marianne,
Eleanor.
right, and Marianne likes Willoughby because he's the opposite of all those things. So,
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think Edward knows exactly what he wants in life. He doesn't want a life and adventure. He wants to settle down with someone that's kind and he wants to be comfortable. And like everyone wants him to be this other person and like do great things. And he's like, can I just like read the paper, have a relaxing Sunday afternoon and breathe? And they're like,
can I
no.
just preach the gospel of the Lord,
And they're
please?
like, no, you cannot. And he's like, okay, thanks.
Yeah, but I like that about him. I can appreciate his homebody
Yeah.
nature.
I mean, we love a good homebody. I don't think there's anything wrong with it. I just kind of feel bad that he can't like do that because then if he does, his mother will literally write him out of the fortune and he is like, "Oh, whoa, okay."
She's so dramatic.
I feel bad because I want him to have his easy life that he wants because
Mm-hmm.
I really don't think he's pick himself up by the kind of bootstraps. Oh, I just stuttered over that. He's not like a hardworking man, if he's down on his luck, he's going to be down on his luck for his life, I feel like.
Yeah, I think he just feels trapped, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, I see that.
But then Marianne sees his ring.
Oh, I know. I was just about to say that. So he sees the ring. He has a ring on his finger that has a hair in the center of it. And I'm like, how is this ring even like, did he like tie the hair around it? Or like, is it a ring specifically made to have a hair in it because this seems like a common practice.
Well, the lock of hair is a common practice. I hadn't heard of this ring. This ring is not in the movie, so I haven't seen one. I'm actually going to look it up. I got the idea, like, I'm picturing something where it's encapsulated in something, like
Yeah,
preserved that way.
that's what I was thinking too. Like, because otherwise I don't know how this would stay on his finger,
Yeah, I'm going to look it up and I'll tell you what it looks like.
Okay.
So it looks like kind of what I was thinking, kind of a resin in that looks like a gem.
Mm.
And then their piece of hair is in it. I'm assuming that this whatever's holding it is clear because once they try to look at they're talking about like the color of the hair. And Eleanor convinces herself this part makes me sad. She convinces herself that it's her hair.
Yeah, and that he stole it. And then Marianne thinks it's her Eleanor's hair as well, though. So both of them are looking at it, and they're like, "Seems a little sus."
Right. It's weird.
Yeah, I feel like if it was Eleanor's hair, then he would have been smart enough to take it off, anyways.
Yeah. But we learn it's not.
Yeah, we
He
learn
says
it's
it's
not.
Fanny's, which would be kind of strange in the first place. Like, I get that you love your sister, but I don't get the vibe that they actually are that close, which is just strange. I mean, I think Marianne asks that, so it's not right up front either.
Yeah, I think Marianne gives him an out by saying, "Oh, was it Fanny's?" And he's like, "Yeah, totally.
Right.
That's what it is."
So weird. I mean, I think if I was Eleanor, I'd be like, did he take my hair?
I know. I literally would phone and I'd be like, "How'd you get that?"
That'd be so creepy if you just didn't even realize and there was just like a chunk of your hair missing.
Yeah, I'm guessing it must have been like only a couple. I don't know. Yeah.
Well, I'm seeing on here too that hair jewelry was very common, and sometimes they wore mourning rings. So you would put the hair of someone that had died.
Mm,
So kind
gross.
of sad, but
Yeah.
it's kind of neat. I mean, I don't know if I would like the look of a piece of hair in my ring, but
I mean, mm, I wouldn't like the hair. I understand like mourning jewelry, how they turn them into little diamonds,
mm,
like the ashes. And I feel like that's fine, but like I'm a little uncomfy with the hair.
I mean, I'm not sure how common for someone that would be able to afford mourning jewelry would be for someone to be cremated, though. So I think the hair would
Yeah.
make sense.
Yeah. The hair is definitely a cheaper option. I just don't like it.
Right. No, I mean, like that. I feel like most people that had money in the day would bury themselves. So they probably wouldn't have ashes in
Oh,
the first place
oh, that makes sense. Plus, I
because they
don't
value
think,
the church so much.
yeah, I don't think that diamond cremation was done until recently, anyways.
That's
Anyways,
true.
back to
Yeah. Back to Jane Austen.
our small tangent of mementos. Okay, so the Jennings come over. Well, Mrs. Jennings, Sir John, and Lady Middleton all come over and ask them to please come to tea tonight and invites them to a party tomorrow. And in this point, Marianne's wishing that Willoughby was home. She's like, "Oh, the pain that I have to endure."
She's so
So
dramatic, but I do kind of feel for her because he leaves out of nowhere.
I know, and she thinks that they're like pretty much engaged at this point. Like,
I mean, everyone does at this point,
that's
though.
true.
Like, they have no reason to believe that he isn't a trustworthy person, other than Eleanor's the only one that is suspicious of him, and she still is trying to figure him
Not
out.
be. Yeah, she's
Yeah,
like, "Oh,
she's
maybe
like
he's
not
fine."
trying to be cynical with him.
Yeah. She's like, "Maybe he's okay." And then mm. So chapter 19. I'm going to have a lot to say when we get to Willoughby's part and Edward's part. Like, I
Well, in the
just
last episode, you were telling me, like, I think that he's good. And I was like, I don't know.
you're like, "I don't know, he's got sus." See, I'm just like hoping for the best out of all this because we get introduced to the first man, Darcy Fitzwilliam Darcy, and he
Mhm.
immediately becomes the hero of the story. So why am I to think that there's anything different here? I'm like, we're okay, these are going to be their husbands, and I'm like, wow, there's a lot left of this book for that to happen so well, but okay. And then she's like, forget everything you know.
Forget everything you know. Start over.
Yeah, and I was like, oh,
Yeah.
okay, here we
I
are.
told you there are some similarities. I mean, when we get when we get to Wilby, we'll talk about some of those similarities
Yeah.
too.
Okay, so chapter 19. After a week, Edward has to go, even though he seems like super unhappy about leaving. He's like finally turning the corner. He seems cool. Everything seems better. And now he's like mad about leaving. Mrs. Dashwood suggests to Edward that he gets a job because she thinks it would make him happier because he doesn't have like a whole lot to do. So he basically just visits people and he's like not seeming super content with that.
He's like a trust fund baby, pretty much.
I know. Yeah, basically though.
Nothing wrong with having a trust fund, but this he doesn't have to work because they couldn't decide on anything that was something he was interested in and something that was respectable enough for his
Yeah.
family.
Yeah. So he's just like, I guess if I can't do the church, I'm just not going to work. And I was like,
I'm just gonna like couch surf and
literally.
visit all these people.
Do you know how easy it would be to be homeless in the 1800s? Because, like, all
You
they
just stay for
do,
a month.
yeah, stay for a month and then they go to the next one. Like, Mrs. Jennings, when we get to her place, she's like, you may be surprised to know that Mrs. Jennings actually has a home. And I'm like, oh,
I know,
oh,
I
okay.
laughed at that.
Yeah, I was like, all right. Because she could literally just be homeless and stay at like her kid's house.
I mean, I think the idea, just like it is now, is that if you're going to have people over, you expect, some sort of reciprocation down the line. So,
Yeah.
and these people have to be, respected people. So if you were just homeless, maybe you probably wouldn't be seen as respected in that time.
Yeah. But I feel like for someone like, I'm assuming Miss Jennings is kind of like older, her kids are grown up and married. She could literally just hop between the two.
Oh yeah, I mean at her point in her life with her being a widow too.
Yeah.
But her and Sir John are such underrated characters in this book. They cannot handle being alone. And it's so funny to me because I'm extremely extroverted. I don't mind being alone, but these people like are crippling extroverts. Like they cannot handle
Literally.
the idea of being alone. Like that's the whole reason that they want people over for dinner all the time.
Yeah. I know. They're like, Miss Jennings is all shook that he threw a ball as soon as he gets to town. We'll get there, but like,
Yeah.
I'm like, you're surprised, but okay. So, anyways, Edward says that he's too helpless to work because his family wouldn't let him go in the church. And I'm just like, all right, Edward. And then he officially leaves. And then because Eleanor isn't flying off the handle at Edward's absence, Marianne thinks that she does not truly care for Edward anymore. And I'm like, Marianne, you little dramatic. Okay.
See, it's funny to me because I feel like I'm a lot more dramatic like Marianne. Like I don't try to have over the top drama like her, but I think I would be like kind of mopey, you know. Whereas Eleanor's like, I'll just keep busy, which I mean, I guess it depends on the situation, but it's funny to me that she's like, oh, she must not care about him then.
I feel like I'm a lot more like Eleanor. Like, I am very much a person that I'm like, it is what it is. Like, I don't outwardly show all my emotions. So, like, I don't understand how I would be like, because Marianne, when Willoughby left, did not eat for like 2 days. And I'm like,
I know she's next level dramatic, but I
yeah.
think I am more similar to the idea of being more open about your feelings and stuff.
Yeah. See, like, I'm not like, I would very much be someone to hide them. And like, if anyone's like, oh, what's going on? I'd be like, it's fine. And then in my room, I'd be like, okay. And I'd be like,
Composure.
yeah, and I'd be like, composure. Whereas like Eleanor's like, yeah, I cried for a couple minutes, but by dinner, no one knew what happened. And I was like, mood. I see you, Eleanor. I hear you. I feel that.
I like that about her though. I just love
Yeah.
that everyone is themselves in this book. You know, they're each
Mm-hmm.
very different.
Yeah, me too. So as Eleanor is thinking about Edward, while she's home alone, a bunch of people just like show up at the house. She's literally sitting just like at the drawing table, looking out the window, and then like watches people walk up to the window and start talking to her through the window before she can like answer the door. She's like, "Whoa, okay."
I think they even say that the window is not far from the door because the house isn't
Yeah.
that big. And she's
Yeah.
like, I don't know why they can't just wait to come to the door.
I know. She says like she had to interrupt, like drag herself away in the middle of Mrs. or Lady Middleton talking so she could let them in the door because she wouldn't stop talking.
It's so funny.
Yeah, so one of the party members is the Palmers, and the husband completely ignores his wife when she speaks to him, like openly so. Like she'll be like, "Hey, what do you think about this?" And he just won't say anything and keep reading the paper, and they're sitting right next to each other in front of a room full of people.
I love their dynamic. Unpopular opinion. I think they are so funny.
I think it's funny to watch, but I feel bad because I feel
See, but you don't need to feel bad because they actually love each other.
like I feel like like Mrs. Palmer definitely loves him, but I don't know if Mr. Palmer loves her, or if he's just a
I'm kind of
dirtbag.
interested to see what you think after the movie because, well, in the movie they overdo it, but I'm interested. I'm interested to see what you think because really, Mr. Palmer is only like that because he wants to seem more superior and like fancy.
Yeah. Yeah.
But really, he could have married anyone, you know.
Mm-hmm. I
So
hope
I
he
don't know. They go
cares
on
about
about
her.
it. They talk about it in the next chapter too. And
Yeah.
in the movie, it's Mrs. Palmer. Do you want to know who it is?
Yeah, go ahead.
It's the woman, I cannot remember the actress's name, but she's the
Mhm.
woman that plays Dolores Umbridge, is Mrs. Palmer.
What?
And her
What?
husband, her husband is Hugh Laurie or Laurie, the guy that plays House. You ever watch that show?
No, what?
And he's just like this very like proper, always reading the paper, and she's like
Oh,
obsessed with her. Sir John and Mrs. Jennings are just like blah, 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 blah,
oh my
crazy.
gosh. Is she younger in that than she was in Harry Potter?
Yeah, I mean that's from the
Okay.
'90s, so
Oh, okay. Because I couldn't remember when Sense and Sensibility was actually. Oh, that's gonna be so weird.
I
I
like it. I like their dynamic, and I think even in the book, I was hoping that it wasn't like a loveless marriage. I think the idea is like they're not overly affectionate to each other, but like
mm,
all he does is have this super dry sense of humor. Like she keeps saying,
yeah,
"Oh, he's so what's this word she uses? Droll or
yeah, something like that.
yeah." And all that means is that he has like a dry sense of humor. So he just
Yeah.
everything she says, he's like, "Whatever."
Yeah, I feel like when they're home alone, though, he might be more affectionate. But I just like when I was reading that, I was like, "Oh no!" Like
I
I
mean,
was,
she's pregnant, so they must have some sort of chemistry, right? You would think.
hopefully,
You'd hope.
yeah. So, she is like uber pregnant at this point, though, and everyone's kind of surprised she's even out of the house because like that was not a thing. Like
I don't
when
think she's that pregnant yet
they
because
said,
she's due in February
yeah,
and they don't even leave until January.
so I'm guessing though that it's like December at this point.
I mean, I think people were much more concerned about the health of a pregnant woman. Like
Yeah.
she's supposed to be rested and
Mm-hmm.
barely left a finger at this point.
Yeah,
In
like,
this point in time, I mean.
but they said, like in other books I've read, as soon as a woman starts showing, she's in the house. Like she is not out in society at all. So like the fact is she's probably at least 4 months pregnant at this point, and she's definitely showing, you know?
Yeah, definitely too far along to be out.
Yeah.
But like in our in our day and age, it would be like whatever.
Yeah, it'd be like, yeah, it's fine, you know, she's at the grocery
Right.
store doing what she does. But like at this point, when she has people that do everything for her, it's weird for her to be like traveling. 'Cause she's a 3 days ride from home at this point.
Right.
So
Yeah.
like that's kind of weird, but it's also fine. So
Yeah.
um so the only time Mr. Palmer looked up from his newspaper is when Mary Ann walked in the room because he was told that she is pretty. And at that point I
He
was like,
cracks me up, dude. The fact that he just walks into their house and just picks up their newspaper and
It wasn't even his newspaper. I thought he brought that with him.
maybe he brought it with him, but it looks
Okay.
I'd have to reread it, but it looks like he just walks in, just picks up the paper and
Oh
sits
my
at their
gosh.
table.
This dude. So no one really likes the Palmers all that much because they don't like their the couple.
I
So
think they just don't get it. It's weird.
yeah, I think it's weird, and then the girls are like, So
Good.
the girls got roped into going to the park and dining with all of them tomorrow, and Sir John
Because they're
is.
polar opposites and they need a buffer.
I
Like that's
know.
really the reason they got the invite. Plus, Sir John and Mrs. Jennings always want extra people. And
Hmm.
honestly, we could throw Mrs. Palmer into that too. They're all just they need people to feel energy, you know.
Yeah, and I think Eleanor is a little bit of an introvert, so she's kind of like, okay, doing this
I
out of the
mean, you
kindness of my
have to
heart.
remember too that these people, as nice as they are, they just don't have great manners.
Yeah,
I don't love being around them because they're just so crude and tactless.
yeah, that's for sure. Because even last time we kind of talked about how they said something about how if they kind of start to bore of their society, they'll find new friends because they're talking. They're like, "Yo, we've been to a lot of balls this season, you know," because he's always throwing one.
Yeah. I mean, they're not even big though. They have like 20 people there. So there's only like 10 or so couples. Because I mean, the area there is not like what it would be if you were having a ball in London or something.
Yeah, yeah. So, chapter 20, they are now at the park, and the Palmers are leaving tomorrow. Um, and I literally wrote in my notes, which is not a great loss.
Well, I laughed too because at the end of the last chapter, Marianne makes a comment of like, "This isn't worth the cheap rent." Like,
Literally.
like their company isn't worth it.
I know. She's like, I think they're all really getting tired of constantly having to be around people, and they're like, can we just like move somewhere else maybe, because we're paying a lot more than just that whatever it is, like $100 a month, you know.
Right, but they're getting, honestly, they can't even pass it up. It's way too good of a deal.
I know. I just think it's funny that they're like, yeah, we couldn't even work if we wanted to, we have no time because we keep having to go to parties.
Basically.
So Mr. Palmer complains about the weather and says that he hates being around people when the weather is this bad. He also talks trash about Sir John for not having a billiard room in the house. And I was just like,
I just love him. I don't know what it is. I just love him.
I think he just like a little chaos in this book, and it just mixes.
He's just so dry and rude and doesn't care. He just like wants to be this little uppity guy.
I know. I feel like he just wants to be like millionaire kind of guy where everyone takes care of him, and he is just like, this is what someone would do in that kind of situation, so that's what I will do. And I'm like, okay, right, buddy.
I mean, he's running for parliament, I think they say.
Yeah, he is.
So I think he cares very much.
But he hates writing.
Think of him. Yeah, because that's, you know, not part of the job description or anything.
Literally, I'm like, you have to write laws, but okay. So then Mr. Palmer calls his wife's mother, Mrs. Jennings, ill-bred for like no reason. I could not figure out, like, something about people not coming to the party, and she's like upset that no one's coming, and then he calls her ill-bred, and I'm like, okay, cool, I guess. I don't know.
The best part is she's just like, you can't even hurt my feelings.
I know, she's like,
because you're married to my kid and you're stuck with me for life. Yeah. And my daughter.
And everyone's like, ha ha ha. And then I feel like Marianne and Eleanor just kind of look at each other while this is happening, and it's like, what's happening?
I enjoyed it. I don't know why. I just love all those side characters. They're not that important. They're just funny to me.
I just think they're wild, and Jane Austen just kind of throws them in there and is like, here you go. And we're like, thank you. I appreciate that.
I mean, I think she tries to expose a lot of personality flaws. Like being overly concerned about what other people think is how Lady Middleton is and how he is, and being way too outspoken and being a gossip and things like that. Like, I think they're devices for that.
Yeah, for sure. And I think it's like a way to work in morals without actually having to like blatantly say these are the morals. Right.
And allowing Eleanor to be more of a contrast too. Like, they're basically foil characters.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So
this is when Eleanor says that she thinks that Mr. Palmer wants to be superior to everyone, and that's why he's an absolute dirtbag.
See, maybe I'm in the minority. I don't think he's a dirtbag. I think he's just overly concerned about his appearance.
Yeah, I feel like the reason I don't like him is because I know too many people like him. So it's like when I read him, I see them, and it just makes me see red a little bit, you know? Whereas like if I didn't have that experience, it's, you know, the same reason a lot of people don't like Umbridge, like more than they hate Voldemort, is because they know too many people like Umbridge kind of thing.
Right. I mean, that's just good character writing too.
Yeah. So it's like I'm kind of getting the same vibe with him, is I know too many people that are like him, and it bothers me.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's fair, but I think that makes it a compelling character, and that's what I like about him.
Yeah. I think it's just that I can see him in the world too much, and that just is like a hats off to Jane Austen for writing characters like that, but it's like I just don't like him because
a true politician.
So then Mrs. Palmer tries
politics in 2020 is a dangerous conversation.
Literally, did you see me just go just go anyways?
There's nothing else to discuss. It's just funny.
I know, it's just And with Thanksgiving having just passed, even more so just going,
So chapter 20.
Anyways, so Mrs. Palmer tries to get Marianne and Eleanor to come stay with them, and they immediately go, yeah, no thanks. Thanks for the invite, but I'm okay.
Yep.
And then Eleanor asks Mrs. Palmer if she knows much about Willoughby, and she says that she knows why she's asking, because Marianne and him are going to get married. And Eleanor's like, wait, what? Like, what are you talking about? And it turns out that, like, everyone spread it around the country. Like, Mrs. Jennings has taken it upon herself to tell everyone the good news that is not confirmed.
Dude, have you not realized that Mrs. Jennings is just so bored?
I know, like, but I thought she was keeping it to the house until that moment when she's like, no, we've told the entire countryside, everyone in London already knows. And I'm like, whoa, okay.
Nah, man, she lives for this.
Yeah.
And I love the fact that Eleanor is going to Charlotte for a vibe check about Willoughby.
Literally.
Like, as if this woman that she just met is a trustworthy source.
Yeah, well, they live both in London, but I don't think anyone realizes how big London is. Like, yeah, sure, she'll probably have heard of him, but she's never actually spoken to him.
Yeah. I mean, they seem to know a decent bit about him.
Yeah, I guess he's, like, kind of popular because he's good looking, so the ladies know him.
He's a bachelor and whatever.
Yeah. So she says that Colonel Brandon told her, and Eleanor's like, what do you mean Colonel Brandon told you? And she goes, okay, so basically what happened is I asked him because my mother told me, and he did not say anything, but he made a face that looked like a yes. And I'm like, what?
I love that. He never confirms nor denies.
Literally.
And she's like, that means it's true.
Yeah, she didn't want to say that her mother told her, so she says Colonel Brandon told her when Colonel Brandon did not say a single thing.
I love it, honestly. I'm telling you, I just like love these characters so much.
Yeah,
I might be the only one. They're so annoying, and I love them so much.
I think it's funny to read because it makes it a quicker read than most of the books in the 1800s because, like, these characters are just so wild, you know?
Well,
so
and it's like otherwise Eleanor and Marianne would literally just be sitting there waiting for whoever to come back, or So
yeah,
so they're important.
Yeah, it gives it some fun. It gives it some spice.
Mm-hmm.
So
and then Charlotte says that Colonel Brandon used to love her.
Oh yeah, I was just like about to say that too. But first she says that everyone likes Willoughby, even though they didn't know him. They don't know him that well because he lives on the outskirts of town. And then she goes, she was almost with Colonel Brandon, but her mother turned it down, and she ended up with Mr. Palmer, who she says she prefers.
I just find it funny.
Poor Colonel Brandon, though. Like, he keeps just getting...
Do you think he actually loved her, though?
I don't
Or does Charlotte just think that he loves her?
I don't know. Like, Colonel Brandon kind of seems like one of those guys that's like a once in a lifetime, like you love someone for a long time kind of person. So it's like I couldn't imagine him loving Mrs. Palmer and then turning around and loving Marianne, because he doesn't seem like someone that would move on quickly.
Right, but he talks about having second attachments, remember, before?
Yeah, but I feel like he might have had like this could have been something, but I don't think he was like deeply in love with Palmer, you know?
See, when I read it, maybe I'm cynical at nature, but I found it funny because Charlotte is a little bit ridiculous in personality, right? And I feel like that is not necessarily what Colonel Brandon likes about Marianne. So to me, with Mrs. Jennings, especially speaking so highly of Colonel Brandon all the time, for her to say that she didn't approve of the match is probably that Colonel Brandon was never interested in the first place. And that
honestly,
Charlotte just
it wouldn't
thinks
surprise
that.
me. It would not.
I like that narrative better.
Yeah, me too. Honestly, thinking about it, I like it better. Okay, so chapter 21. You're gonna hate me for my first note. The Palmers are gone. Thank the Lord.
I just have Palmer's leave. They're obnoxious. I think that's fine to say, but I like the fact that there's an obnoxious character in an 1800s book. Like, that just makes it more interesting.
True. I mean, yeah, I think it adds some flavor, but I just don't, like, I wouldn't want to be around them. Like,
I don't know about
like
you, but I'm not trying to read an 1800s book unless if it's got some sauce to it. Like, I need it to be a little bit more interesting than that,
more,
you know?
some flavor. I know we're currently reading Little Women right now, and like, this book has no flavor. Like, it's good, kinda. Like, I would never read it again. You know, I've read it once.
I
And
guess
that's enough.
never say never, because you got to finish it to know, because sometimes those things, it's like you end up, like, I remember, here we go, Harry Potter. I remember the first time I read Harry Potter, it took me 3 tries to read Order of the Phoenix, because it's like 870 pages or something like that.
Yeah.
And when you have ADD, it's just very hard to keep track, and you're in 3rd grade trying to read an 800-page book, you know? So it took me like 3 tries to read it, and by the time I had finished it, I'm not like disappointed, because it's an important part to the series, but when I read it, I was like, that wasn't as good as all the other ones I've read so far. And now when you look back at it, you see like what was important about it to the plot. Because if you didn't have that book, like, you wouldn't have a lot of character development for him, and you see him becoming more and more like who he's trying to defeat, you know? So, I mean, I think like it's hard sometimes because you have to just finish the entire book to see how you feel. And now if I reread that book, like the second time I read it all the way through, it didn't bother me as much. I do think it could have been edited down, you know, like it's still not my favorite in the series, but
yeah,
I don't know.
I think at that point she was just doing so well. They're like, whatever you want to do, JK, just hit the publish button.
Yeah, I think that she had a lot of liberties at that point, but I'm not sure. Probably. I could see that. I mean, considering how much that could have been edited down of him just like having all these dreams and whatever.
Yeah.
No spoilers of Harry Potter on this podcast.
True. I know. I listened to the audiobook version, and I know at some point I'm going to reread them because I own all the physical copies in like beautiful, the nerdy ink. You can see them right back there, maybe. I don't know.
Oh, yeah.
The
I have the
nerdy
box
ink
set
covers.
that comes in like the little trunk, so I feel you on that one.
Yeah. It's just like I have my aesthetically pleasing covers, and then I have the actual stacked next to them right here is
the ones that are like acceptable to read.
Yeah.
The other ones are just like to look at.
Yep. So then after they leave, 2 new girls show up that no one knows.
They're distantly related.
They're distant. The fact that everyone's quote distantly related is hilarious to me.
Because everyone lives on this tiny island of London in England and the greater London area.
Yeah. And they're like, we're distantly related. I'm like, oh yeah, because when people get married, they just move like 2 blocks up the street, and that just happens indefinitely.
Yep.
So it's just funny to me. Because I'm like, they were like passing through town, and they're like, oh yeah, by the way, we're cousins. And he's like, then come to my home.
The Steel Girls.
Yeah.
Enter Steel Girls.
Yeah. So then Sir John immediately walks to the college and asks the girls to come meet the Steels. And he tries to get them to come immediately. And the girls are like, can we like come within a day or two? And he's like, please just come with me right now.
He's such a nut.
And they're like, we promise we'll be there in a day or two. And he's like, fine. So that he goes back. And then the next day they end up going. So they don't really like the older sister, Anne, very much. They think she's quiet and plain. But they kind of like the younger sister. Because she's like...
Anne's really outspoken and doesn't have great manners either.
Yeah.
She's not on the level of like Sir John and Mrs. Jennings, but both of them are just a little off, you know?
Yeah, yeah. Their manners are not super up to snuff.
Yeah. I mean, Lucy has better manners, but she isn't as well educated.
Yeah. Yeah.
As the rest of the company. I mean, I'm assuming that Anne is also not very well educated.
Yeah. But like everybody else is. But Lady Middleton is absolutely obsessed with them because they like her kids.
I love that. I wrote in there, The children are praised. Finally.
Yeah. And then my note is the kids are awful.
I think they're just kids, you know.
Well, they're spoiled,
They're spoiled, but they're also, her Lady Middleton's pride and joy.
Yeah.
So for her to have guests over that dote on them as much as she does, she's
like, this is the best day of my life.
Probably why they got to stay for like 2 months.
Yeah, it's because like they're making stuff for the kids, everyone's obsessed with them, and like I just think it's funny that all the Dashwood girls are like, what is happening? Like, because none of them care about these kids at all, and then like the Steele girls are watching after them, doting on them, playing with them, and then I'm just imagining as the Steele girls are playing with them, because they're in the playroom right now with these kids, as they're playing with them, all the Dashwoods are just kind of like sitting on the offside, like looking at them like, what's going on?
Oh yeah.
So then
it's weird.
Yeah, so then Lady Middleton takes the kids out of the room after the little girl, Anna Marie, I think your name is, gets a small scratch and screams unendingly. So then the girls are all left alone together.
Well, it's because they keep rewarding her because she got hurt.
They keep giving her sugar cubes and everything, and then the little girl's like, if I continue to scream, I keep getting sugar.
Yeah, she's figured out the formula, so
yeah, so it's like, really, it's not the little girl's fault, it's basically everyone else's fault, but like all the kids leave with Lady Middleton because they're gonna go keep doting on her and giving her other things that she needs. So after they talk for a while, Eleanor doesn't enjoy them anymore and they end up leaving.
But they're basically like, what about all the boys in the area? Like,
yeah. And Eleanor's like, what about him? And she goes, who's your beau? And she's like, I don't have one.
I think it's Beau.
Is it Beau? I always read it as beau, but you're probably right. It's probably Beau.
I think it's Beau.
That sounds, I could be wrong. It sounds more right than beau, but I don't know.
Because when she says it plural, there's like an X.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe. You're probably right. I really don't know either way.
Yeah, so she's like, tell me all about these beaux. Beau with an X.
I know. And like Eleanor's like, what about them? And she goes, tell me about them. All the beaux in the area. And then like Eleanor's like, let's just leave now. I'm uncomfortable.
Well, and then of course, inevitably, Sir John brings up Edward and Eleanor. And she's like wanting to disappear into a hole.
Yeah, and then they somehow know Edward, but they won't say how at this point. And Eleanor thinks it's because they don't like him. She says something like, oh, it seems like they're hiding what they know about him and that they don't really like him or something. Because I guess at that point, Lucy made a face when they brought up his name. And I was like, oh no, that means Edward's not good. But little did we know. That is not what that face meant.
Right.
So chapter 22, Lucy Steele is apparently one of those people that's only okay for small doses. And Eleanor says that she's okay for the first half an hour, but Eleanor can't stand her for longer than that, as she is illiterate, ignorant, and doesn't want to improve.
Well, and I think the other thing is she's just they're both kind of fake. Yeah. So they, like, as they start talking about all the gossip and stuff, she's really, she's very petty girl, passive aggressive.
Yeah.
Which I found interesting because when in the movie, she does not give off that vibe.
Oh, really? Yeah, she seems very much like one of those girls in every teen movie where later on the main character steals the boyfriend away from because they're not a good person. You know what I mean? And I don't think Lucy's intentionally not a good person. I just think she cares about what she cares about. And
she just has her own self-interest in mind.
Yeah, which is fine, I guess.
I mean, it sort of makes sense in this situation.
Yeah. Yeah.
He has a right to feel a little suspicious and weary about the whole situation. But we'll get to that.
Yeah. So then Lucy randomly asks if Eleanor has met Edward's mother, to which she says she hasn't. And this is the
What
part
a
where
random question,
I
too.
know. And she's like, hey, by the way, and they're just like walking, you know, there's nothing that prompts this at all. And then so Lucy then just like drops this bomb. And she's like, hey, by the way, I've actually been engaged to Edward for the 4 years in secret. And everyone's like, whoa, hold on. And she's just like, yeah, you know, there's that. And then apparently his mother doesn't know either, which is the whole reason it's been in secret.
Because they're basically just waiting for her to kick it.
Yeah. I didn't realize right off that was what they were waiting for. I thought they were like, oh, she hands over his fortune. No, she's waiting for her to like, you know, die so that the fortune then goes to her. And I'm like, is he gonna poison his mother? You know?
Well, because she's not a suitable match. I think you find out too that basically, I mean, Eleanor's suspicions about her being, you know, illiterate and uneducated in a proper way would be almost worse than all the money situation on top of it.
Yeah, because I mean, she's flat broke. Like, I don't think they have nothing. Yeah, I don't think she has any fortune to her name at all. Like, her only hope of gaining one is through marriage. And like, for Lucy, if I was in her shoes, waiting in secret for over 4 years, I would be starting to get nervous because Anne is like in her 30s, I think they said, and she doesn't have a man. So like, one of them has to secure a fortune because otherwise they're both going to be in trouble here soon.
Well, and you have to remember too that Edward doesn't have a profession, so it's his money solely rides on his mother's temper, basically.
Yeah. And it's like, if I was in Lucy's shoes, I probably would not be comfortable waiting 4 years because she's about to get out of her prime. You know, if Edward changes his mind for any reason, she is going to be in dangerous waters.
Right.
So it's like, yeah, if I was her, I would have already called it off and gone on my merry way. Cause like, she could be waiting 10 more years for his mother to kick it. And then at that point, if he changes his mind, like, she's in a world of hurt.
Well, and at first, Eleanor doesn't even believe her. She's just talking to her, trying to get all the facts and get all the proof that she needs.
Yeah. I love that her little detectiveness, where Eleanor's like trying to find holes in this story.
Right. Because she's got a good sense for things, you know?
Yeah. So then Lucy starts asking Eleanor for advice on whether or not Lucy should break it off because of the stress that it's causing them. And I'm like, yo, if you're asking, you should probably just call it quits there. But I also don't know if she's asking Eleanor that because she knows that Eleanor cares for Edward, you know? So I don't know if she's
I think it's more about that.
Yeah, that's what I was
wondering. Because she's fake.
Yeah.
So she's like, I don't know, do I have any reason to call it off?
Yeah, and she like wants Eleanor to say no so that she can blow up on Eleanor. And Eleanor's like, no, I'm not going to say anything.
She's like, I'm not going to tell you anything.
Yeah.
Which is a good call.
Yeah, I think Eleanor's very smart in the way she handles this entire situation. So,
and to have to keep it a secret herself, you know?
Yeah. This entire situation was chaos. I was literally reading it and I was like I wanted to text you, but I wasn't sure how far along you were, so I wasn't gonna like be like, oh my gosh, you know.
I mean, I know the plot.
Yeah.
Before I even read the book, so you know, you can text me about it.
Yeah, I probably could have. I just like didn't think about it. I was just like, oh, I don't know how far along she was, so I didn't text you. But I really wanted to text you about the Willoughby stuff when we get there. But I was like, it was like I literally finished. You
trusted him.
I know.
You trusted him.
I know. At least this time, reading through this, we get my actual reaction as it happens because the last couple books I've been ahead, you know? So I was like literally reading it. And I had like the Star Wars moment where it's like, I loved you like you were my son.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, exactly.
So then we get it revealed that Edward was visiting Lucy and her sister before he showed up, and that's why he was upset. And
so awkward. First of all, he doesn't lie to them though.
Yeah.
He does tell them that he's staying with people near Plymouth, but they just didn't even think to ask who because they don't care to pry.
Yeah.
Well, and they don't know anyone there, so
yeah. So
that we know of.
Yeah. And then this is where it's revealed that was actually Lucy's hair in the ring. And
yes, and she keeps a mini painting of him.
I know.
I like picture common, like the dad with like the wallet with his kids' photos that flip out, but like they're all like paintings. That's what I thought of when I saw it.
It was pretty common though for like people who had kind of more money to have those mini paintings.
I just have never heard of it, and I'm picturing a wallet-sized photo.
I think it's kind of like, it's like probably about 2 inches, and it's like on a locket normally, and it's like a little covered thing, like a locket, I think.
I'm still getting the same vibe though of a dad with wallet-sized photos.
That is absolutely fair.
Yeah.
For a fact. Yeah, that's true.
I'm gonna give my husband one of these.
Do it.
Sit for a painting.
Do it. I dare. I want to see them. I would love that for you. Thank you all so much for listening to this episode of the Barely Bookish podcast. This episode ran a little long, so Allison isn't here for the outro, but if you want to follow her, go over to Instagram, and she's at _Allison Eason_, and that'll be in the show notes if you want to follow her. I am at Barely Bookish on literally everything, so if you want to follow me and see what I'm up to, that's the best way. I'm on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, and Twitch now. So any of those places you can find me. But that's all we got for this episode. Thank you guys for listening. Our logo is designed by my little sister Sarah. Our theme song is by Raphael Crux on freepd.com. And that's all I got, and I'll catch you all in the next one. Bye!